Hello learners, today we are going to talk about what is known as forms of patriarchy. It is under gender sensitization course BGSC 001. I hope that you have been following other lectures because it would require you to understand what I am going to talk about. So let's start with what is, you have learned what is gender. Today we are going to understand how gender is constructed and how patriarchy plays a role in it. It's a system that we're going to talk about it. So when we are born as human beings. Our biological configurations are of course given. We are either a male or a female child. But then when we grow up, we are defined as male or female at every step of our growing years. We are often told not to behave either as a girl if one is a male child or as a boy if one is a girl child. Our parents tell us this, our teachers tell us this, our neighbors and our priests or pandits tell us this. Everyone is involved in defining us as a man or a woman, given our genital configurations. Sex is thus an important factor in how we get to be defined. I must tell you that after listening to this lecture, these are the outcomes of learning. After listening to this lecture, you will be able to understand the nature of society we live in, why our society is not based on equality, why there is a basic inequality between men and women, why we must change the society to bring fairness and well-being for all. So, as I said, when we are born as human beings. Our biological configurations are of course given, but we grow up as men and women. That is a very important thing to understand. And it is this patriarchy that helps us to grow up as men and women under tremendous pressure and socialization. Why do you think we humans indulge in defining ourselves at every step of our lives? Is it because we live in a society and are not allowed to be independent of society? I think society is important for human beings to lead a civil and prosperous life. But do all societies keep defining individuals the way our present society does? It is very important. It is a very important question. We must reflect on it to understand patriarchy, the subject we will be discussing today in depth. As you know, there are various kinds of societies human beings have built over many centuries. We can thus say that all societies are not alike. They have different forms. What are those defining characteristics that make them different from each other? Do you think societies have always had caste, religion, or race? Even if people of different color and faith lived together, were they conscious of it so much that they made them the basis of the society? These questions are central to our discussion today. Let me tell you that societies in which we live have historically evolved, rather have taken numerous forms. There was a time when human beings lived in caves and hunted other animals for food. Later, they gathered produce of the forest and filled their stomachs. Much later, it began to produce the same food by cultivating it. Women and men both hunted and gathered food. After they started cultivating land and growing food, the situation changed. They could produce more than they consumed. Agriculture had entered their lives as surplus production began to yield. The nomadic life had declined and people began to settle along the river banks. Production of food based on agriculture began in an organized manner. We can say that the first settled society was also a more complex one, as division of labor came to be recognized as the basis of sustained production. We should pause here to think as to what this development had to do with the birth of patriarchy. We have not even defined it as yet. The birth of patriarch or father and decline of mother or matriarch is a historically simultaneous process. A father is born as much with the control of the surplus production as by having control over this, his children and wife. That is to say, a father is not just a biological thing. A father is a product of social construction in which control of children and control of agricultural product was very important. This is a bit complex, but let me simplify the matter by saying that a father is not born because he has fathered a child, but because he is the legitimate owner of his child or his children by way of having ownership of his wife as well. They all are in relationship defined by a concept called private property, which is central to the emergence of structure of family and marriage, which are also the basis of patriarchy. Later on we will discuss. It is to say that marriages are not made in heaven. They emerge out of the historical circumstances defined by the need of division of labor for the sake of sustained surplus production of food and its transfer to the next generation. It is important for this surplus, which gets converted into private property, to be kept under legitimate control by the institution of laws of inheritance. You can see the relationship of property, family, and fast emerging structure of the state, which will legalize it as law. In this sense, patriarchy, the rule of patriarch, finds a neat formation. So let's see what patriarchy means and what other forms it takes. In the western part of the world, the story of the formation of patriarchy is quite nicely given or outlined in a book titled Origin of the Family State, Family, Private Property and State, written by Frederick Engels. What is remarkable about the book written by Engels is that he relates the rise of the father to the decline of the mother. That is, power of mother declines as power of father rises. Emergence of private property based on the division of labor also meant that most of the work related to procreation and nurturing of children would be performed by women, which ultimately confined them to domestic realms. Most work related to public life and production will be performed by men. This is also the foundation of the power of patriarchy or patriarch. During matriarchy, which preceded patriarchy, such division of labor was not so strict and maintained by the state. The distinction between mother's rule and father's rule can be seen in the early stages itself. So patriarchy can no longer be defined as a social or political economic system in which men could come to hold primary and paramounting power, which enables them to dominate politics, society, economy and religion. I mentioned religion because the forms of patriarchy we need to understand is shaped not only by the abject division of labor between men and women, but also between men and men. Religion too creates lasting division between men of high morals or high caste and low morals and low caste. It has played significant role in creating caste system, which helps patriarchy to solidify itself. Basically, it is a system of multiple division arranged hierarchically. Uma Chakrabarti, a well-known feminist from India, writes, the general subordination of women assumed patriarchal, particular severe form in India through the powerful instrument of religious traditions which have shaped special practices, meaning caste. We must have heard of the system of Devadasi. You must have heard the system of Devadasi, which made Dalit women sexual slaves of the priestly caste. It is this caste patriarchy that socially, religiously and culturally sanctions its formation and continuous occurrence. More than just this one practice, caste form of patriarchy brought them under the oppressive rule of both Dalit men and upper caste men. If you look at the level of violence and rape heaped upon the Dalit women today, you must understand the root cause of this is embedded in the system of Dalit patriarchy. It is her caste that has marked her socially, religiously and economically for this level of oppression and torture to occupy her life. She is the most oppressed section of society with no money, no power to defend herself. Dalit feminism is a cry against this condition. Similarly, we have a form of patriarchy based on racial difference. I want you to know that the feminist movement, the first to second phase in the western part of the world, fought against capitalist patriarchy, but could not see the underlying race oppression which was prevalent and is was prevalent in the West and in USA as well, and the entire western part of the world. Black women in the USA began to theorize their own patriarchal oppression and called liberal and socialist feminists still white. I would like to mention the name of black feminist thinker like Bell Hooks and Angela Davis here. Black revolutionary feminism not only denounced racism but also denounced economic oppression that they suffered and are still suffering. Since we have talked about Dalit feminists and black feminists theorizing and figuring castes and race patriarchy, we must also talk about capitalist and socialist patriarchy as well. What I mean is rule of male over female lives. This is what in a nutshell it is. Remember my early formulation of how division of labor marked the emergence of patriarchal society, which by the way also structured family relations and private property becomes a special feature of patriarchy in capitalist system. And the division of labor is not only kept for the sake of sustained production or exchange value, that is profit, it is also made more enduring by additional sophistication added to it. Technology has played a tremendous role in its further structuring and its continuation. Let me give you an outline of how capitalist patriarchy functions or works. Capitalism is a system of production of capital, meaning wealth, both movable and immovable. Unlike feudalism, where immovable property like land and castles constituted the wealth, in capitalism it's money. Money is something that has value because it circulates through market. Value is generated in the process of production of goods and it fetches value in the market through exchange for profit. This you know, of course, since we have talked about it earlier. The entire system of capitalist production is run to create profit which congeals as wealth. But this is done by dividing the society in terms of class and gender. Without this division, which creates new forms of inequality, the profit cannot be generated. The first thing to understand is thus that when a thing is produced, not only things that we need to satisfy our needs, it is produced more for profit to generate exchange value. This means that production and overproduction is necessary for this system to continue flourishing. To produce and produce continuously, this mode of production requires continuous supply of labor. It is here that we will pause and think to understand the nature of capitalist patriarchy. There can be no production without labor, and there could be no value created without the investment of labor, because it's capital and labor together that produce a thing, a commodity in capitalist order. Maintenance of working class is thus needed. Capitalist does not want to bear the cost of the maintenance of their lives, that is workers' lives. It thus falls on women workers, meaning the worker's family has to do this nurturing and everything that goes with it. The entire domestic work and producing the new worker through reproduction, all of it falls on women. All of this outside the purview of market. The family is outside the purview of market. It's all tucked in the domestic realm under the roof of the family structure. Most labor performed here is unpaid. Women's devaluation and oppression is thus supported by the market and state by devaluing their labor. The profit generated by unpaid domestic or household labor is pure profit for the capitalist. It's an accountable surplus value, that is, it is unaccountable surplus value that is generated by the system, which is kept invisible as women's labor is kept invisible. Capitalism exploits women's labor as slave labor, meaning slave and unpaid labor. That is why women do not get good jobs. That is why they work more in the informal sector where wages are low, labor is insecure, and wages are earned as supporting wages for the families, not the principal wage that they earn. That is why socialist feminists demand measuring of domestic labor and its valuation. Now, many governments have woken up to this exploitative condition that capitalism has created for women. They are creating various plans now to offer women money for domestic work, but it is too meager. What is needed is to value all labor, domestic labor, reproductive labor, as productive labor. A cumulative calculation of all labor used in the production of goods, and laboring bodies will bring a fairness required to beat down the patriarchal oppression and devaluation of women and their labor. Socialism has fought against capitalist patriarchy, but the practicing socialist states have not freed women from the domestic labor. The divide is still operative. Even though state takes responsibilities of education, health and other necessary expenses, women continue to work in these areas more. Additionally, this allows the state to be more powerful than people and lead to overall domination of lives of people by the state. It curbs a lot of freedom that people would like to have. Look at China today. It functions as a state capitalist more than as a socialism. So, functions are more as a state capitalism than socialism. Some people call it market socialism. It is oppressive towards women and it remains uncontested. In the end, I want to talk about other factors that contribute still to newer and regressive forms of patriarchy, which acquires the name of culture and religion. People also talk about Asian patriarchy because the level of violence against women in this region is quite acute and deep. Women are not only allowed to relinquish domestic work but are also raped, burnt and killed in the name of family honor. Murdering women and destroying their lives is an enduring feature of this patriarchy, which is called Asian patriarchy. All this violence is performed against them in the name of culture, custom and religion. In this vein, we can also talk about Hindu patriarchy, Islamic patriarchy, Jewish and Sikh patriarchy too. Girls as young as 9 are married off to men older than their fathers in Iran, in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. The clitoris is cut off when young so that they don't enjoy sex and do things for their pleasure. It is only by men. It is only men who should be enjoying sexual pleasure. Women are there only to procreate children, run the family system. Their humanity is denied to them, granted equally to men and women by nature. Women have been denied education, participation in politics, priesthood in religious orders, good jobs and peaceful lives, all in the name of patriarchy, which is to say in the name of rule of the father, rule of male rule, masculine rule. The women are the first ones to be violated in war and made to function as prostitutes in societies that perpetrate war all the time. You must know Korean women were made to serve as slave prostitutes during Japanese war in Korea. There are hundreds of extraordinary examples to show that the existence of patriarchy in different forms need to be studied to show that it is all made by men and not God or nature. I want to conclude today's lecture on the forms of patriarchy by saying that women and men both are equally human beings, made to live under the oppressive condition by the mechanism and logic of patriarchy, which functions through forms it acquires in different societies differently. It is more a universal system of inequality and violence that human beings suffer on this globe. Women have fought against it from the time one remembers. In modern times, feminism too has become a universal resistance movement, fighting it at various levels, at the level of caste, race, religion, region, culture, every layer. In northeast of India, army represents patriarchal power, which women of this region have fought recently. We need to bring down the system to realize our full humanity. So, my dear learners, patriarchy is basically nothing but the rule of the father, rule of a man. The father is a symbol who rules his family, who rules society, and who rules the state, who runs the economy. Basically, it is a compact organic system of constant and perpetual oppression of women by men. Other men also get oppressed because of their caste, because of their sexuality, because of their religion and region in which they live. So, I think this systematic inequality must be fought off by systematic equality. We call substantive equality, which is a gender concept. This is enough for today. Next time we meet, discuss some other topic. Bye bye for now.